Hi everybody, welcome back again. I've seen some of you already this morning and really happy to see you. We were just talking earlier with Jeroen saying that we've wanted really to have a very open and flexible process for the events that we're doing and allow people to participate in ways that they can. We chose to do a webinar format for this, which means that we can't see you. But we can see you on the chat. Will we be able to ever hear anybody? No.
We will if they raise their hands, and then I'll know that I have to let them talk.
Okay, fine.
I've been given far too much power.
Yes. So there are very few of us, which means that we can have a more close conversation. And I would really encourage all of you to just pop some quick notes into the chat, say who you are, what you're interested in, so that Jeroen can have some feedback for this. When you're doing a webinar, it can be a bit disconcerting because you can't see the audience and it feels like you're just talking to a computer screen, and that's a bit hard to engage with. I'm going to ask Team just to very quickly remind us one more time of the quick engagement rules, and then I'm going to hand over to Jeroen.
Yeah, so I think for those of you who are here this morning, this is very familiar, but you have 3 ways to ask a question in a webinar. You can either type it in the chat, just make sure that you've put panelists and attendees in the chat option so that we can all see it, not just us, the panelists. You can also use the Q&A function, which is at the bottom in the little Zoom meeting bar, or you can raise your hand that will let me know that you want to speak, and then I'll just come to you when we've got a little bit of a free time to do that. But please just use the chat also to discuss, exchange, network, anything that you want to share there. That's what it's there for. Your microphone will be on mute until I, the bearer of power, can allow you to speak. And as we mentioned this morning, we record the sessions and they'll be uploaded at a later time on the Generation Code website. So I'd encourage you to check in on that just to see also the really cool exhibits that we've got going on there. But also if you want to watch the session again or watch other sessions, that's what they're there for. And yeah, let's have some fun with this. I'll just hand over to Jeroen now and stop sharing my screen.
And I will start sharing mine. And when I do, Tiana, I have one question for you, because when I'm presenting in full screen, I cannot see the chat.
Yeah.
And I would really invite the attendees, if they have questions, just to ask them when they want to. So if you can give me a heads up that there's a question or a comment, please let me know so I can handle that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let me share my screen. There we go. So I will tell you a little bit about the Data Detox Kit, and especially the Data Detox Kit for youth, which is a new kit. Maybe you are familiar with the old one, which was basically a more general version, preferably used for adults. So Tactical Tech, the developer of this project, now came up with a kit for teenagers. And what hasn't changed is that basically you are working on a new digital personality. So you get this kit and you start working on who you are in this digital domain. And obviously this is important nowadays. And luckily a lot of knowledgeable people have said things about this and have written things about this. And I want to mention someone in particular, which is Shoshana Zuboff. She's a professor from the United States who has written a book about surveillance capitalism. And this might be, I think, the most important quote from this book, that we are not using Google to search, but that Google is looking for us or searching us, which is about collecting data, which in itself, of course, isn't a bad thing, because we can do wonderful things with data. But behind the screens, things are happening with data, often without us knowing it, that aren't always good for us. And to put this in a more clear way, this is something that Privacy International, an NGO concerning with privacy, has said about, well, basically what the dangers are when it comes to combining data, which basically is about all the things that are really dear to us and which are very personal. And it's not people who are doing this, but it's basically software who's looking for combinations of things that might expose things about ourselves that we might not even know, but are pretty valuable for companies to make money with. And again, that's not a bad thing in itself also. But I think that a lot of people would like to know how they can handle this new phenomenon. And that's where the Data Detox Kit comes in, which is basically, like I just said, a way to work on your new digital personality, especially finding out how things work, and how you can change things in the apps you use, in your behavior, to still be using all these wonderful digital apps and gadgets and developments in the broadest way possible, but also be more resilient when it comes to protecting your data, and by that also protecting yourself. So when it comes to the old kit, that was built up out of 8 steps, in which step by step you started working on this new digital personality, really focusing on data and privacy. This new kit is a bit different because it basically consists of 4 elements: digital privacy, still, digital security, digital well-being, which is new, and misinformation. And each step is described in a really playful way. So I will show you some examples of what the new kit looks like. This is basically step 1, getting a grip on your data. And you see here that people using it, or in this case, children or teenagers, are really invited to start working with their own phone and with their own apps to find out what's really going on. So it's really playful, it's interactive, and step by step you go through this process, and in the end you will have achieved this new digital personality in terms of being more knowledgeable about what's going on and how you can handle this. So another example, this is about the digital well-being step, aptly titled How to Survive a Breakup. So how can you also live without your phone? And basically realizing that it's not your fault that you grab your phone all the time, or want to use your tablet or a computer, because all these programs and apps are designed to grab your attention. So you basically learn new ways on how to handle that, but also learn about this phenomenon of software being designed to grab your attention. And in the end, learn about you, and by that, making money. When it comes to this step, it's really informative, I think, to, and maybe you have heard of that, to look at a Netflix documentary, The Social Dilemma, which is basically also about this element. And the last example page that I want to show you is about misinformation. Obviously, and I think also especially for librarians, a really important step, how to handle fake news, but also starting to build this idea that we are all responsible for the spreading of misinformation. and not because of bad thoughts or wanting to be negative online, but it's so easily done. So the main focus in this step is to learn about what you can do yourself, the questions you can ask yourself before you retweet something, for instance, or reshare a photo on Instagram or a video on Facebook. So all these steps are really personal. This kit becomes kind of a personal workbook for everyone who has a copy, because you have to make notes, you have to work with your own phone, you have to work with your friends or classmates to really get a grip on what's going on, combined with, and that's very important, combined with the notion that this kit is not about leaving all these digital possibilities behind, but embracing them, but in a way that's more healthy. What's also really important, and that's also an invitation to you, is that Tactical Tech has developed educational materials. And since this kit is really new, they have designed some workshops that aren't out in the open yet. And they are looking for feedback. So if you're interested in getting to know what these workshops look like, you can send an email to Safa@Tactical Tech. You can see the email address, but it will be shared later on also. And you can ask for the workshop materials and then provide feedback on what you think of them, and hopefully also enhance the materials, which will be published at the end of the year. So then you have a kit, but also materials to use in your library or classroom to use combined with the kit, which again is a really personal thing. And the workshops can be used in a group setting, for instance. So this is basically about the kit. I work at VERS in the Netherlands. We are a service provider for a group of libraries in the province of Friesland. And when we started to work with the Data Detox Kit, we also saw possibilities to start developing ourselves, to add to the kit. So I will show you really fast what we have come up with in the last 2 years, maybe also to inspire you to learn from this, or also find ways for yourselves, for your own library, to redevelop new materials to make this Data Detox project a broader project in general. So the first thing I want to show you is a theater project that we are finalizing right now, in which we asked basically the peer group for this new youth kit the following question: what is the best way to discuss this topic of digital privacy and surveillance capitalism with your peers? And they were handed a budget and a facilitator to work through a process. And this group of children said, well, we want to develop a play. And in this play, we will talk about all these issues. And the end product will not be the play in itself, but the end product of this project will be a script that can be used by schools, by libraries, by youth centers to set up their own theater play, obviously combined with this new Data Detox Kit. And we will premiere the first version of the play upcoming weekend. And during the annual National Media Literacy Week in the Netherlands, which is in a couple of weeks, we will make the script public. And of course, it will be open for translation also. So first it's in Dutch, but we will look for ways to also make it available in other languages. Another thing we did is to develop a small serious game. also designed for teenagers, in which they learn really fast about, for instance, what a cookie is or what phishing is. And also, again, this game was used in an annual program this year for the second year around. And again, the invitation for schools who work with this to use it in combination with the new kit. We also came up with a program which is also a physical thing, same as the theater play, which is basically a game show about digital privacy. When we started developing this, we were really focusing on the elderly to make the topic of digital privacy something to speak about with people attending this show. But it turned out that it also works really well for young people. So right now we're also looking for ways to make this show a digital thing, so go online with it. Looking into the possibilities right now to make this happening. And the last thing I want to show you is a couple of exhibitions that we will do next year in Amsterdam and in Leeuwarden, partnering with Amsterdam Public Library and Leeuwarden Public Library to come up with two larger classroom exhibitions, which is also a concept developed by Tactical Tech, in which the Data Detox Kit again is a way to make attendees of these exhibitions aware of the ways they can handle digital privacy themselves. And these exhibitions are really about making visible how digital surveillance works. And we are doing this in a library setting. It will be the first time in the Netherlands, especially these larger exhibitions. And we are focusing also with these exhibitions on young people in general. So this is what I wanted to share with you. I will stop sharing my screen. So I am curious if there are questions or comments, so I can react to that, or we can start having a conversation.
Thank you so much, Jeroen. There's a couple of quick comments and just saying, data detox is great. You can see the chat now, I think.
Yeah.
And question about the English as well. How many languages is it available in?
I think the general new Data Detox Kit is available, I think, in 8 languages right now. So if you go to datadetoxkit.org, you can see all the translated versions. Okay. And the youth version is only available as a PDF as of now. We have completed a Dutch translation. I'm not sure how many other languages are available when it comes to the youth kit. So it's in English and in Dutch, but presumably it will be available in German and in Spanish, I think also. Mm-hmm. Okay. And Italian, I think also.
And is it a free use?
Yes. Yeah, so all the materials are licensed by a Creative Commons license, mm-hmm. Which basically is the share alike license. Mm-hmm. So if you're interested in redeveloping or further developing, you're able to do so. Mm-hmm. But the people at Tactical Tech are really nice to get to know. So I would just contact them and discuss possibilities, mm-hmm. Because they are really eager also to bring this project further. So that they're really interested in any way that makes that possible.
Mm. The teacher from Turin is asking whether it's the script of the workshop. Yeah, I'm guessing that if it's that obviously we can translate, anybody could translate it themselves. I guess it's originally in English, the script. Is that
No, the script for the play is in Dutch because this was a Dutch
right.
project.
Okay.
But I think we will be making it available in English as well.
Oh, I see.
You know, to give something back to the
Right.
project also. Like I said, the Data Detox Kit for youth, it's available in English out of the box,
Yeah.
and in Dutch, and also in the languages that I mentioned earlier.
Yeah. It, you know, it occurs to me, I know it's not really our job, but I'm just thinking that, you know, this teacher is a primary school teacher, and you know, I'm basically making Social Dilemma mandatory watching for everybody I know. You know, and obviously, like you say, you know, there's one of that question about, in theory, children under the age of 12, or I don't know what the legal limit is, shouldn't have access to any social media, you know, like, but I know many children under 12 who A, have a smartphone, B, are smart enough to lie about their age to get a TikTok account or whatever it is they want. It might be interesting to suggest a tactical tech that they do, I don't know, some like really little kids version as well, you know, like we've got to get them young, you know, it's like, you know, by the time they're 12, it's almost, you know, the habit and the desire is there already, and it's something that has to be managed in a different way.
Yeah, you're right about that. Yeah, and the same goes for illiterate people. Which also is a very large group, and we're all basically required to use digital means to communicate with social services or other important things.
It occurs to me that there's something that's developing with social media, is that if you're low literate or you can't read very well, you almost need that less and less. You know, you use Siri, you get things to talk to you, you watch videos, you know, it's like if you can't read and write, that's becoming less of a barrier, but it's also, of course, you know, it means that you're much more dependent on what the algorithm feeds back to you. So that's a whole interesting challenge.
Yeah, well, but basically you're talking about awareness then, and to be aware, I mustn't say that you aren't required to read and write to be aware, but you know, learning how your phone works isn't the most important thing. It's learning about what's behind that, and that's just a discussion that you can have with everybody. Also, people who don't have any digital means. In that sense, you know him pretty well, Ilona. There's this great example by Doc Belshaw, who said, so for the attendees, Doc Belshaw, he's from the UK, and he developed the Open Badges project at Mozilla when they were still interesting. And also most of their educational programs. And he said one of the most interesting conversations I had about digital privacy was with a group of immigrant women in London who didn't have any access to mobile phones or other expensive equipment, but they really understood the value of privacy. And they became really good ambassadors in their own networks to talk about this issue with, for instance, their children. So you don't have to have a technical discussion. You have to have a discussion about human values and about, you know, what is privacy and why is it important to you. And then it's up to the teacher or the librarian to connect that to, or you're using that app, have you thought about this or that? Or instead of focusing on, oh, look, I'm able to share this picture or video. Because we're basically, everybody, and especially young people, are able to do that, but are not realizing what might happen with these images, for instance.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Are there any other questions? Hold on one moment. Go.
So are you taking over, Tiana, or?
I think I will be.
Okay.
I think I've been forced to. Does anyone have any other questions, comments on this? Elena, you're on mute. Yeah, just putting them in the chat and we can have a discussion around that.
Maybe also nice to know for people who have seen The Social Dilemma. They have also developed a lot of educational materials to use after viewing the documentary. And they also have possibilities to show it in your library or in your school.
Yeah.
So they have some very nice conversation starters to do a group session about digital privacy, about collecting data for different target groups as well. So you can have a techie discussion, but you can also have a discussion with really young people. So that's I think I will put that in my presentation as an extra before I send it to you, because these materials are really great. So for people who haven't seen this, this documentary, it's really recommended to have a look. But combined with these materials, it's really great.
I'm just thinking for those who were here this morning as well, I think something's emerging from the day for me, which is thinking, and you've been involved quite a lot in Internet Librarian, so I just really feel like we need a tech forum for libraries in Europe now, where we could have a day where we could talk about all of the different, really sort of tech aspects that are happening. I'm like, maker spaces, fab labs, privacy, resources, tools, so I think, I'm always sort of thinking about new things to do, but I think this is something we should think about, is having, something that's really focused on current best practice tools, resources, and also with some kind of curation as well. Because what we need now is experts to guide us through the vast amount of material that's out there, and understanding what's good quality, what works best in libraries, what's good value for money or free, because cost is a real issue for libraries, so it's just something to be thinking about.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna get back to you and Donatas and the others, if there's anybody who's, Donatas, you asked earlier in the day whether, there might be a sort of exchange platform or something. And I'm always kind of wary because there are many online forums that are dead and nothing happens. But I'd like to think about that,
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I'm writing something. I'm sorry. I'm writing something in the chat as well.
Sure. And of course, there's a huge amount of English language dominance in this field as well, and that's a challenge, So sometimes maybe it's just about translating stuff, but it would also be great to see what really good local content there is that could be migrated into English as well. Yeah, Cory Doctorow's a go-to, isn't he? Yeah. We'll get him over next year.
Yeah, oh yes, please do.
We are not worthy. We are not worthy.
Yeah.
I know, we'll have Shoshana, Cory, Tristan Harris, and we'll throw in Eric Kleinenberg just for, and then we'll have no more problems in libraries ever again, right?
No.
That's a good idea.
No, so this question about books, that's I don't know that many books about privacy for this target group in English. So I put in books by Cory Doctorow, who is he's a former librarian a long time ago, but he's an amazing writer and very critical as well. So and a lot of fun to read. Also his children's books. So highly recommended. And they're not really about privacy, but he addresses all these important digital issues.
Yeah.
So basically, like you just said, Ilona, ranging from maker culture to digital privacy and copyright, but not as a boring thing or something theoretical, but always embedded in a story.
Exactly.
So that's really great. And it's my wish, and that's a personal wish, that it would be available for public libraries to be able to show, and now I forgot the title, this series about digital dystopias.
I don't know that.
Mirror,
Black Mirror.
Mirror.
Black Mirror.
Oh yeah.
To make that
viewing,
to make that available for classroom showings as well, and being able to develop some kind of conversation starters to talk with each other about what's going on. Is it a dystopia, or is it already happening? Or have we found ways to address these issues? And learning from especially young people on their ideas and their observations also.
I learn a lot from listening to a New York Times journalist called Kara Swisher. She's got some very interesting, deep interviews on this topic. And I think listening to an interview with Tristan Harris recently, what's quite interesting from a library's point of view as well is that, you know, what we're faced with is social media organizations that so far, let's say, US dominated without regulation. And, you know, with very, very poor practices, of which, like, let's say Facebook is probably the worst right now. It's very easy to become very disheartened, and often they're tools that we have no choice about using for one reason or another at different times. But the argument that kind of emerges from the social dilemma is that cultural change is the one thing that can move as fast. You know, it's hard to keep up with the technology, but the cultural change, and that's something where libraries could be really powerful. You know, and the first step is making or helping people to take distance from this. You know, it's not about media literacy, you know, it's about cultural criticism, and it's about understanding, you know, like you say, some very simple principles about how these tools work. Like you say, it's not your fault that you can't put down your phone. It's not your fault that, you know, et cetera, et cetera. And that is what will push a shift in the way that these tools are designed, much faster than if we wait for government regulation or, you know. So I think that's where libraries might have a really interesting role to play, is in that kind of slightly more political. It's true, but I think it's important.
Yeah, and it's also, and this is the main critique on the social dilemma. Are these former tech executives the right people to address these issues? And how does it work that now Netflix apparently wants to spend a lot of money to create a great documentary when you already have people like Cory Doctorow and Lawrence Lessig and all of them who have tried to address these issues for years and never had the platform to, and I think we should embrace especially those people and learn from them and help them also to bring their message across.
But it's great that Netflix is doing it, because you know, not many people are going to read Cory Doctorow, but a lot of people are watching, and you know, it's becoming a kind of buzz. Everybody's talking about it, and it's in an accessible format, which is, you know, I think there's a space for more academic or more in-depth, and also in terms of pedagogical tools as well. That's something I think we really need now, is, you know, how do we you know, how do we deliver these things in a way that makes sense? So, you know, I'm really keen to take, you know, I think what we're going to do in PL 2030 over the next few years is, you know, we're having a kind of we're going to develop an overarching focus on democracy. And, you know, the second pillar we'll be working on will be this kind of question of digital engagement, because it's part of what the EU's spending time and money on. So that makes sense for us. And obviously with the pandemic, the kind of the whole questions around basic digital skills and, you know, the digital divide that everything's brought up about, you know, has become suddenly very relevant again. So I'd really like to think with you guys as we move forward on, you know, how can we create spaces where people can really share. And, you know, I was really struck in the webinar we had earlier that, you know, the library was talking about what they're doing in digital skills and coding, and they're just doing it all by themselves. You know, they're inventing it all, they're looking for the resources and the materials, and, you know, there's so much good knowledge and experience and practice out there that can be shared. And I think that's where we want to step in, is at least, you know, a bit like you've done with the Makerspace Network or some other stuff as well, you know. So I think that's what I'd like to think about a bit more as we go forward. So, you know, that's what's emerging out of the day for me today.
Great. Yes. I have put in, because I didn't show that last slide, I think, the link to download the kit. So like I said, right now it's only available as a PDF. We are working right now with Tactical Tech to create some kind of interactive version of it. So we are awaiting a grant to make this happening. So there will be a website or some other interactive form available within a couple of months, I hope. But for the time being, you can download the PDF and start working with that. You just print it and you can get going. Like I said, you can request the educational materials for review and feedback. And the new Data Detox Kit is just at datadetoxkit.org, which is the new version for the general public, which is available both digital and as a PDF.
And Jeroen, are you willing for people to get in touch with you directly if they want a bit more help?
Yes, of course. Yeah. So my email address and my Twitter account is in the presentation.
Yeah, perfect.
So I will send a new version later this afternoon, Tiana, so you can use that for sending it to the attendees as well.
Yeah, fabulous.
Fantastic. Well, thank you all very, very much. We've had some late participants, so I'm sorry that we're going to finish up now. All the information is there. It will all be on the Generation Code website, and we'll find a way to post up all the presentations that we've had during the day, and look forward to seeing some of you tomorrow.
Great. It's good to have you.
Thank you
so much.
for
the opportunity.
Bye.
Thank you guys. Bye.